न कर्मस्वनुसज्जते सर्वसंकल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदोच्यते यदा हीनेन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुसज्जते सर्वसंकल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदोच्यते. Please repeat. 3 volunteers, please.
All right.
Please start. Yeah.
Yadhanajan Yatasi
Yada hinendriyartheshu
Na karmasva nanoshate
na karmasvanusajjate
Sarva sakalpasana yasi
sarvasankalpasannyasi
Yoga ruda satadoshate
yogaruda sadochyate. Okay, 2 more brave souls. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karmasvanusajjate sarvasankalpasannyasi yogarudhasadochyate. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karmasvanusajjate sarvasankalpasannyasi yogarudhasadochyate. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, word-to-word meanings. Yada, when. He, certainly. Na, not. Indriya artheshu, in sense gratification. Na, never. Karmasu, in fruitive activities. Anusajjate, one necessarily engages. Sarva sankalpa, of all material desires. Sannyasi, renouncer. Yoga arudha, elevated in yoga. Tada, at that time. Uchyate, is said to be. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Purport: when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namne. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshtarine. So, this chapter is titled Dhyana Yoga, as I mentioned just before I started reciting prayers, which means meditation. And there are many people in this world today who are interested in meditation. And what does meditation, in general, what do we expect? Or when we hear this word meditation, what do we think? Yes?
Grounded and centered.
Grounded and centered. Could you make it a little clearer?
So when I say grounded and centered, I mean you feel this connectedness to everything around you.
You feel connectedness to everything around you. Okay? What else are people's opinions when it comes to meditation?
Turning within from the external world.
Turning within from the external world. Okay, good.
Quieting the mind.
Quieting the mind.
Bringing notice to the mind of the thoughts.
Bringing notice to the mind of the thoughts. Okay? Yes?
On TV, a lot of people say no thoughts.
On TV, a lot of people say no thoughts. Okay? Yes?
Stillness.
Stillness. Okay, anything else?
Peace.
Huh? Somebody's peace. Peace. Okay. Anything else? Anybody thinks about meditation when it comes to your mind?
Kind of engagement with the internal, one's internal divinity.
Engagement with one's internal divinity. Okay, so in all of these answers, there's one common thread, right? Nobody said that meditation is when I'm being very actively involved in something, I don't know, outside. You know, the idea is that you have to bring attention from outside to something else. Now, interestingly, we don't think, but actually meditation can be very active too. For instance, a mother can meditate on her child, but she's not sitting in a yoga asana on a corner of a room. She's very actively meditating on the child's welfare. And she's constantly, whatever she's doing, even if she may be even a working woman, her mind is, what is my child doing? And that's meditation, is it not?
Correct.
Why? But it doesn't necessarily fit with some of the definitions that we just heard. Definitely doesn't fit with the definition of no thoughts. No, but why do people in this room agree that that is also meditation? Any answers? Yeah.
Because your singularity focus.
Okay, that is the point. Meditation refers to the ability to focus on something. It doesn't just mean thinking about something. We think about so many things. But the difference between when we say that a mother meditates on her child's welfare, it means that there is a focus. There may be other things going on, but that is the focus. In some cases, in especially in this regard, the focus is so important that everything else becomes secondary. And it's no real big problem that when there is when there is a need for the child, the mother is ready to stop everything else and take care of the child. Right? This is called meditation. That meditation means to focus. Now, people like the idea of meditation. Why? So from this we understand that meditation means you have to take your mind away from going here and going there. Right? Our mind currently wants to go here, it desires this, it desires that, it keeps going here, it keeps going there, and we're not able to focus on anything. Now, many people are able to focus the mind on a particular goal or target. Like, for instance, somebody who wants to become an Olympic gold medalist has to put their focus in a particular direction. And that can be said to be meditation also. But that is not the meditation that Krishna is referring to as dhyana yoga. Because Krishna is not just speaking about meditation, he's not just speaking about dhyana, he's attaching a word called yoga. Right? That's where the difference comes here in Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, in in one way, shape, or form, we all have experience of meditation. Is it not true? We all have experience of focusing on something. Even the drug addict has focus, he also has focus. His whole life is revolving around how he can enjoy that particular drug. But it's not yoga. There is dhyana, but there is no yoga. What is yoga? Yoga means meditation that is used to link ourselves with the Supreme. It is meant to link ourselves with the self. Now then the question comes is, what is the self? So the self, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, is part and parcel of Krishna. We are spirit souls, we are spiritual in nature, we are divine, but our divinity is a small part. It is a fragment of the supreme divinity. The source of all divinity, the source of everything material and spiritual, which is Krishna himself. So, yoga means meditation that is used for us to connect ourselves with that. Because every other type of meditation is, what is the difference between meditating on the so what is the difference between meditation, yoga, where we connect ourselves with Krishna, we connect ourselves with the Supreme Absolute Truth, and meditation on other objects? What is the difference? Why is yoga special? Because it is said here that when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself and is thus no longer engaged in sense gratification or fruitive activities. See, to engage in fruitive activities or sense gratification also we require meditation. Without meditation, you will not actually do anything. The problem is, we generally don't just think of thoughts as meditation, but generally when you want to achieve something, you start to focus on it. Whether that is a quick focus or whether it's a long-term focus. But the problem is, we've tried all these focuses, and what is the end result? We're not satisfied. This is the point. This is the point to understand. That we are constantly seeking outside, that this meditation is taking our mind to external objects and attaching ourselves with external objects, and we think that by obtaining that external object I will become happy, and for that we are meditating on that object. Actually, this is how desire develops. We don't desire something when you don't meditate on it. Why do they have advertisements? So that you start thinking about something. You don't start thinking of it's not that generally, okay, you start looking, when you first look at maybe an iPhone advertisement, you may not just go right into the store and buy it. It takes a while. They say it grows on you. What does it mean, it grows on you? It means, it means it's sitting in you. It's sitting in the mind, basically. And it's growing on you. So the idea is, the more they keep getting your attention to it, the more you're going to start desiring it. The advertisement industry understands this. So, but we're all here, and we understand from these answers that that's not the kind of meditation I want to be engaging in. But we should recognize that it's meditation. This is very important. We should understand that we do actively meditate on things, but these things are not beneficial to us. What does that mean? It means we have the ability to meditate. First point to take. This is the first thing we have to take away. That the process that is recommended in Bhagavad Gita is not an artificial imposition on the mind. It is what we are doing every single day, but the attention is being diverted in the wrong direction. So, if we have proper knowledge, then we will divert our attention in the right direction. Those who have improper knowledge meditate on objects that ultimately bring harm to oneself. Therefore, it is also important to understand that just meditation is of no use. If we do not have knowledge, if we do not understand what we are doing, if we do not contemplate, if we do not ask the right questions, and if we do not receive the right answers, then our meditation is going to take us nowhere. Why? Because we are doing it every day. And it's still taking us nowhere. This is very important to understand, that meditation without transcendental knowledge, which is why Bhagavad Gita is so important, without understanding what that knowledge is, we will simply meditate on the wrong objects. Why will we meditate on the wrong objects? Because Prabhupada is making the point here that without Krishna consciousness, one must always be seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. Why? Because one who has no such realization, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. This thing that they say on TV, that you should have no thoughts, is nonsense. Why is it nonsense? To want to have no thoughts is a thought in itself. It is a self-defeating, stupid argument. It is impossible. How can you, it is like trying to make water not wet. I'm going to try to make water not wet anything. How is it possible? You will be frustrated. There is the nature of something. We cannot meditate. The word meditation meditation is obviously, we understand as from the answers also, it involves the mind. Right? Nobody thinks it involves the, something else. The mouth or the ear. Meditation involves the mind. You may engage other things, but ultimately the mind is meditating. Therefore, without understanding the nature of the mind, how will you meditate? We think, I'm engaging meditation. We fail to realize we actually meditate. We've been meditating our whole lives. But we think, I need to pay $500 to someone who's going to teach me to sit in one corner and empty the mind. But the thought to empty the mind is a thought in itself. There's one fellow. He wrote a book, and he wrote several books. He said, you should not accept a guru. There is no need of a guru. There is no need of a spiritual master. Right? Just observe and read and follow your own path or whatever. Anybody who's intelligent will understand that by doing this, he has become the guru. If you tell me not to follow the guru, why are you opening your mouth? Ultimately, I am gaining this idea from you. It's not from me. I didn't dream of this when I woke up this morning. I had to buy his book. I have to read it. So these people give these self-defeating philosophies where they don't follow their own philosophy. They cannot follow their own philosophy. So people who propound such philosophies have no understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because in Bhagavad Gita, the science of Krishna consciousness, the science of yoga, the science of connecting with the Supreme, understanding who is the Supreme, understanding who we are, understanding the mind, understanding, the nature of this material world, all this is presented. So, if we first understand that we constantly meditate on things, then we'll understand that what we are meditating on is called as sense gratification. Because what do we meditate? We meditate on objects that give pleasure to the senses. Because that is our highest concept of happiness. What gives pleasure to my tongue? What gives pleasure to the skin? What gives pleasure to the belly? What gives pleasure to the genitals? This is what we meditate on. But animals are also doing the same meditation. They also meditate. In fact, animals can be quite meditative, meaning focused. They wait, patiently wait. When the right moment has come, they strike at their prey. Requires a lot of self-control. Is it not? You never realize. But the animals also meditate. And therefore, meditation is not the goal. The goal is meditation on the Supreme. Meditation on Krishna. We have to understand who the Supreme is. We have to understand who is situated within our hearts. Who is sustaining this whole universe. Why are we... So, we have to recognize that while we want to deal with our mind, who created the mind in the first place? Then we can understand how to deal with this. So not only do you understand the characteristics of the mind, you also understand its purpose. See, you may understand how a car works. Oh, if I put gas, it runs. But you have to understand the purpose of having a car, which is to transport. So a person, when he creates an object, he creates it with an intention. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has created these things that we are living with a purpose. And this purpose is all described in Bhagavad Gita. It's a wonderful book. And for those who don't understand this, they still dabble in the external. Why do they dabble in the external? Why do they meditate on the external? Because they think it still gives them happiness. They think it brings satisfaction. They do not pause to think, why do I need to take, if everything is so wonderful, why do I need to take a vacation? Why do I need to take, antidepressants? Why do I need to, why do I feel frustrated? I want to be happy. Then some people come up with this philosophy, well, actually, you can't be happy all the time unless you're miserable sometime. So, according to that philosophy, the more miserable you are, the more you realize how happy you are, correct? Right? So what we'll do, we'll have this exercise. We'll take a hammer and smash you, as many times as we can. Why? Because I want you to be more happy. So I'll give you more pain, because that's how you appreciate happiness, right? No, it's nonsense. You do not need, and people think like this. They think, oh, you need darkness to understand what light is. It's not true. Light and darkness are two different things. Darkness is the absence of light. That's all. But you can understand that there is light by the presence of light. Similarly, happiness is realized by the presence of happiness. You do not need misery to recognize happiness. This is not required. When one feels happy, that's it. So, we desire this happiness to be consistent. Why is this happiness not consistent? Because the meditation is constantly broken. Why is the meditation broken? Because we are meditating on temporary objects. Therefore, we must turn our meditation to the eternal. We are eternal. Therefore, it is used here. Therefore, Prabhupada writes that when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself. People, they wonder, what is the cure for depression? What is the cure for anxiety? If you become pleased in oneself, where will there be depression? Where will there be anxiety? But we have to understand what that self is. That self cannot be understood, like somebody was saying that, to feel connected with everything. But if we do not realize our relationship with everything, then how can we feel connected? Like for instance, when I come to in a dream, I may be connected to so many things and this and that, and I may not feel any connection with anything. When I'm awake, I'm completely in a different world. But the moment I'm awake, sometimes we have this experience. You don't know where you are, and then suddenly you realize where you are. Oh yeah, I'm actually at my home. I'm still in my home, and then immediately you develop connection with everything around you. Everything suddenly makes sense. So we develop a connection when we understand that there is a relationship. When there is no relationship, we're not happy. That's why people don't like getting. That's one of the reasons. That's not the only reason. But one of the things that happens when you get kidnapped is you don't have a relationship with anything around you. They're still human beings, but you don't feel any connection. Therefore, you're not happy. So the connection is realized when we actually understand who we are and how are we related to everything in this world. And that is not possible to be realized unless we understand the source of everything, because that is where everything is connected. Otherwise, what is my connection with the whales in the Pacific Ocean? What is my connection? What is my connection? There's no connection. Oh, we live on the same earth. Okay. So then we can pollute space. They do that too, by the way. Because I don't feel any connection. No, the thing is, we actually have connection. I don't feel any connection with the river. I don't feel any connection with this. And then we live on earth and this and that. It's not very, They say, yeah, but the rivers in my country are pure. What if your rivers in your country gets polluted? I don't care. Or they go slaughter so many animals because they think, I don't have any connection with those animals. Those animals are meant for my pleasure. So unless we bring Krishna, the source of everything, God, into the picture, unless we understand the source of everything, the supreme absolute truth, we cannot be connected with everything. It is not possible. Because you will have one opinion, another person will have one opinion. And who gets to decide? Who gets to decide? I have my philosophy. Oh, this is my philosophy. That's your philosophy. And there's no agreement. But you know what? Philosophies have real life repercussions. Philosophies have had horrific repercussions in human history. And everybody has to have a philosophy, right? Even the worst dictator on the planet, even the greatest, tyrant, he has a philosophy. He has a particular worldview. And those worldviews have real, repercussions. Therefore, we have to, if we actually want to understand how we have to establish peace, not just within ourselves, but with everything around us, we have to understand what is our connection with everything in relation to the supreme absolute truth, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created everything, because that is where everything is tied up. The atheists argue, you don't need God. You don't need God to understand these things. I don't need God, but then you atheists don't agree with each other either. So there's no end. There's no end to it. There's no end to the differences in philosophy. Therefore, the emphasis in Bhagavad Gita is on knowledge. And how is that knowledge? Question and answer. You're not expected to accept blindly. You're not expected to accept anything blindly here. We're expected to understand. But the moment we understand, then automatically the meditation is going to go in that direction. Why is the meditation going to go in that direction when we understand? Why will meditation go in the direction of the Supreme Absolute Truth, of understand towards Krishna, if we understand who Krishna is? Huh? Because of connection. Right now, we feel connected to other things because we think we belong to this. But we actually not belong. We feel like this controls our existence. But it doesn't. It doesn't. We feel that connection, but actually it doesn't. And at the time of death, this is forced upon us. We leave everything to move to another life and start everything afresh. But we can come out of this. We can come out of this by properly understanding who we are. And this is the whole purpose. And see, therefore Prabhupada is saying, without Krishna consciousness, one must always be seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. Why is it called self-centered or extended selfish activities? Quite a bold statement to say. Without Krishna consciousness, basically you're saying everybody is selfish. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. Why is that the case? Because there is a difference between being Krishna conscious and being what does it mean self-centered here? What does it mean being self-centered? It means that one thinks that one's philosophy is what the world has to accept. Or that the world has to live according to one's philosophy. We fail to understand, we just entered this world maybe, or the way it is right now, maybe like 30, 40, 50, 60, the oldest people in this room, 70, 80 years ago. And the world's existed before that. And it's going to continue to exist after us. And it doesn't matter what our damn philosophy is. But we think, well, right now, I'm going to mold everything according to my worldview. And some people have more influence than others. So some people are able to change entire countries and nations and people. Others are not able to do so, and then they end up having to take medical supplements to pacify their mind because they're dissatisfied. They become frustrated. So therefore, this is selfishness, but because we fail to recognize who is the actual controller. When we recognize who is the actual controller, when we recognize who is the actual benefactor, who is the ultimate well-wisher of all of existence, then we automatically become satisfied. We automatically become selfless. Because we understand that no longer does it matter what I think I need. What matters is what matters is by understanding my nature, I will understand what I need. Because without understanding one's nature, without understanding who we are, we will not understand what our needs are. We will continue to remain in illusion. And in this illusion, we'll come up with so many ideas, so many complicated ideas. But these complicated ideas do not lead the world to more peace. It leads the world to more chaos. Because there is no common ground, there is no common agreement. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita is such a great text because it's spoken by Krishna himself, it's spoken by God himself. How do I know that it's spoken by God himself? Well, you may not believe that Krishna is God. You may not believe that this is spoken by God himself, but at least you can take the knowledge and see if this knowledge makes sense. Krishna is not forcing this knowledge upon us. In fact, after speaking the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Arjuna, now you do as Yatechasi tatakuru. I've spoken everything. Now you decide what you want to do. That freedom is given to us. But the laws of nature are going to remain the laws of nature. And we cannot change that. If we think that we can change the laws of nature to suit our interests, then we will become frustrated. And therefore, this is important to understand. It's not, there's no point in just believing in God. That's not even Krishna, that's not what Bhagavad Gita wants. Bhagavad Gita is not this text where either you believe or you go to hell, and if you believe somehow, even if you're just like, a complete rascal, it's all okay because you believe. But this is not the kind of religion we are talking about. Here in Bhagavad Gita, there is proper understanding as to who we actually are, what is the purpose of human life, who Krishna God is, and what are we doing here. And not just that, we're talking about dealing with the mind. There's a lot of description of what the mind is. Literally in the next text, Krishna says it right here. He says, one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So more description of the mind comes. What is the nature of this mind? Why do we need to know about this? Because we live with this mind. And the mind is different to us. Actually, people who are, even today, psychologists, they can't really define the mind. They can't really understand the mind. They use this word mind, but where is it? It's not an organ in the body. It's not an organ. It's not the brain. The mind is not the brain. What is the mind? Now you say, show me God. Can you show the mind? Can any biologist, any scientist show me the mind? How many people will say the mind doesn't exist? Nobody will say that. Can you show intelligence? Where is intelligence? In the mind? No.
It's subjective.
Intelligence is different to the mind. Intelligence is subjective. I'm asking where it is.
In creation.
Do we agree that animals have intelligence? Yes? Yes? Where is it? Yeah?
In the supreme being.
Sorry?
In the supreme being.
Well, Supreme Being has intelligence, for sure. Krishna has intelligence, but what about us? The brain exhibits intelligence. The brain exhibits intelligence. And yes, IQ levels are there and things like this are there. Intelligence quotient is there. You can measure intelligence. But you cannot see it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Same thing with God. You understand the existence of Krishna by the characteristics. Not that you can't see God, so he doesn't exist. Can't see the mind either. And psychologists are still understanding, they still don't understand the mind. You still don't really get it. Where's all these emotions? If you were to go to a person who's depressed, hey, that neuron is firing in the wrong direction, and you got a few wrong chemical discharges going on. So just calm down, it's just a few chemicals. They're not going to accept that. You don't understand how I feel. I know what you feel. It's just a few things that are firing in whatever this cerebral part of this whatever brain. No. We intrinsically know we're more than this. We know we're more than just a few chemicals that are reacting. We know that we're more than a few chemicals. That means we need to understand who we actually are. It is not all empirical. It's not just all something you can just I'll just go and take into a laboratory and understand. This is what the scientists would like us to believe. But you can't. You can't, it's not that simple. It doesn't answer so many questions. Therefore, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he's explaining the mind. He's describing this. He's describing the nature of the mind. The mind is actually an element. It is a covering on this body. So we have the gross body, which consists of the five senses. And then there's a subtle body outside the soul, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego. Therefore, although sometimes we point the mind here, we say the feelings are here. And then when we think of meditation, we're thinking of this. Because it's actually a covering. So you have the mind, intelligence, and then ego. What is ego? What is ego? Everybody has ego? Where is the ego?
Right.
Can you see? Can you take the ego to a laboratory and experiment with the ego? You can pinch somebody's ego. You can hurt their ego. So we all know ego exists. But where does it exist in the body? Can anybody say? It exists in the leg. You hit somebody you hit someone, in their hand. You hit their hand. Do you think their ego would hurt? It would get hurt? Yes? No? If you punch someone, would their ego get hurt? Yes. But it's not in their hand. Where is the ego? It's not the mind either. The ego is a separate element. It's a separate covering. It's the identification that the soul has towards this universe. And we have some misidentification. We think I am this kind of person, I am that kind of person. And then when somebody calls us something differently, we get upset. But actually, we do not, like, I think I'm American, or I'm Indian, or I'm black, or I'm white, but I'm none of this. I'm none of this. These are all coverings. The pure spirit soul, which is situated within us, the pure spirit soul, which is who we actually are, right, is above all of this and actually does not depend on anything. You know what? The soul does not need food to survive. The soul does not need air to breathe. The soul does not need money to live. The soul is completely independent. It is the body that needs all these things. When we understand who we actually are, and we understand that soul in relation to the Supreme Soul, Krishna, then we understand that this spirit soul is meant to serve the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is a person. Krishna is a person like us. We're meant to serve that Supreme Person. We're parts of that personality. Then we start meditating on that. And by that meditation, we become liberated. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness takes the very ability we have, the very thing that we are using to bind ourselves and get ourselves into a mess into this world. We will use the same abilities to liberate ourselves. We don't have to do anything. We do not have to practice something. We don't have to learn some new ability that we don't have. We have these abilities. It is because of these abilities that we are here today. We all have the ability to meditate, and it is automatic. But we are meditating on the wrong object. We are meditating on sense gratification. We need to meditate on Krishna. That's all. It's a very liberating understanding if we actually grasp it. So how do we meditate on Krishna? We chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Why do we chant the Hare Krishna mantra? Because the Hare Krishna mantra purifies ourselves. It purifies, the sound vibration purifies us. And by the purification of the sound vibration, we start to understand who we actually are. We start to uncover. We start to be able to observe. Like people are saying, meditation means I want to be able to observe my thoughts. But observing one's thoughts is good. But how do you prevent these thoughts from overcoming oneself? That comes when one has knowledge. And knowledge is useless unless it is used. Knowledge has to be applied. Knowledge is not something you just gain. Knowledge means there has to be practice. Without practice, there is no knowledge. What is the use of knowledge without practice? You don't put knowledge to practice, what is the use? It remains as just dry speculation. So you put knowledge to practice. What is that practice? Okay, now I need to divert my meditation unto Krishna. How do I meditate? Then there is a process. There is a process that is given. That process is to chant Hare Krishna. So this is a very, very simple process. And this is what Krishna is going on in the next chapter. And in this whole chapter, further text 6, he says, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain his greatest enemy. Why? Why will the mind be our greatest enemy? Because if we do not understand who we are, if we do not understand what we need to be meditating on, the mind is going to meditate on everything that we shouldn't be meditating on. This is the problem. Now, does that mean a devotee does not think about, well, I'm working a job, I need to make money, so I need to think about making money. Does that mean a devotee does not make money? Does that mean a devotee doesn't earn or think about, his different various obligations that he may have in this world? Does that mean a mother should not meditate on her child, even though she understands, I'm not this body and the child is not, the child, I have a relationship because of the body, and this is all temporary. Does that mean that the mother does not meditate on the welfare of the child? No, that's not what it means. What it means is that one understands why one is meditating, and ultimately one understands the purpose of human life is, in spite of all these activities. Okay, I need to make money, yes, but I'm making money, why? To maintain my body. Okay, why am I maintaining my body? So that I can become Krishna conscious, so that I can become a devotee of Krishna in this life, so that I can apply myself to the process of Krishna consciousness. Not that I'm doing other things. Everybody else wants to get money to do different things. But the problem is they meditate on the wrong objects, and then they end up in a sorry situation. So this is what we need to understand, that by meditation on the temporary, we will achieve temporary results. But because we are eternal, these temporary results will not be satisfying for us. And as long, and this even after we become as a devotee, sometimes I have some ego issue, I want this. Even as a devotee, as we are practicing, it's not an overnight switch. And we start meditating on these flimsy pleasures. But we're able to observe, oh, my mind is going towards this flimsy pleasure. Pull it back. Pull it back. Let me understand the purpose. Let me understand. See, a devotee understands the purpose of everything. He doesn't just do it because everybody else is doing it. Oh, that's what I got to do. No. I asked the guy, I said, so what do you want to, what? You look like a spiritual guy. What is your goal of being spiritual? He wasn't able to answer. He wasn't able to answer that question. I said, what exactly? He said, I want to help everyone. He said, okay, I said, you want to help everyone, but what exactly do you think would help everyone? He didn't know. He wasn't able to answer that question. Because whatever answer he came up with, there were contradicting answers. Because when we don't understand the purpose, we suffer. So we have to understand that purpose, and then we have to follow a process. Because there is a process, it's not that we just cook up something. Okay, I want to be Krishna conscious, I'll just live my way, whatever, No. There's a process. That's why yoga means it's process of linking. When you want to link something, then you have a process. If you have to hook up, a trailer to a truck, there's a process. Then it gets linked. So we have to link ourselves with Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is called yoga. And in devotional service, this is what we do. We link ourselves. But to link, there is part of that linking process is to meditate. And we do that every morning. You want to experience meditation? We do that here at the temple. Every morning, we all rise up. We have our first ceremony at 4:30 in the morning. And from 5:15 till about 7 o'clock, we're all chanting on beads. We're meditating on Krishna's holy name. And then what do we do during the day? There is active meditation on Krishna. And this active meditation we all engage in. We engage in this every day. But this active meditation, we can engage in a manner that we can maintain our bodies, and at the same time, at the end of this lifetime, we go back to God. We do not become born again in the cycle of birth and death. We do not become conditioned. So, the mind is a very complex subject, but Krishna describes the mind in just a few verses in this chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. For those who are curious, what is the mind? You can read these few verses. By understanding what is the mind, what will you gain? What will we gain?
Understanding of ourselves.
Understanding of ourselves. We will gain an understanding of ourselves. And not only do we gain an understanding of ourselves, we also gain the ability to control the mind. If you do not understand what the mind is, there is no question of controlling it. There is absolutely no question of controlling it. If you want to tame a particular animal, you need to know what that animal is. You're not just going to tame it just like that. You need to know what is, like, in India, there's two animals that you will find always in many places. One is the dog and the other is a monkey. So you have street dogs and you have monkeys everywhere also. When a dog or a monkey approaches you in a little bit of a agitated way or a ferocious way, you deal with them in two different ways. Very different ways. For the dog, you bend down and you try to pick up, a stone or something, or act as if you're picking up a stone even. Immediately it will back off. It'll start backing off. That's how it's programmed. That's how it works. For a monkey, you do that, he's going to leap towards you. I literally had that experience. It's not funny when it happens. It freaks you out. For a monkey, you show the stick. You have to pick up a stick. You have to find a stick. If you don't find a stick, you're finished. You have to find a stick. And all you need to do is lift the stick and the monkey will back off. Or you just slam the stick on the ground. Make this loud sound. Immediately it will back off. Take a stick to the dog. It's another story. So you have to understand the nature of something to be able to control it. No, I don't care about that. Well, then you can say that you don't care, but you still live with it. People say, well, I'm just going to escape. I'm going to take an escape. My mind is troubling me. I'm just going to go to whatever, the mountains or whatever. The mind is going to come right with you. People, we've seen this also. People who are very used to city life, noisy city life, right? So the best example is like New York City. It's really noisy all the time. But even that's like nothing compared to like, if you were to go to places, again, I'm from India, extremely noisy. Everything is so noisy all the time. And so they want peace. So they go to what in India we call hill stations, because it's a tropical country, so elevated, mountainous towns and towns, they're called hill stations because they're cooler. They're cooler, so it's nice, better weather, because everywhere else it's the tropics and it's hot. So you go to the hill station, what do? They bring all their, these big speakers, everything, and they blast their music over there, because they can't live without it. It's too peaceful. I need some noise. So they make noise. Where there's no noise, they make noise because they're too used to noise. But they understand that noise is a problem. It's too peaceful. I actually had that problem. I myself had this problem. I was with my spiritual master, and we went on a writing retreat in an actual peaceful place in India, and I was shocked. It's too peaceful. There's only peacocks here. And it's like, and I was like, oh my God. I wasn't used to it. I couldn't handle it. But I was able, because I was, we're reading Bhagavad Gita and this and that. I was like, my God, my mind is so used to this. So the mind comes along, it comes along with us wherever we go. And we can't really run away from it. Therefore, the only way is to turn, face the mind and conquer it. To do so, we need Krishna's mercy. We need Krishna's help. Therefore, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. It is not possible. Therefore, actually, Prabhupada is making this point here, and I'll stop the lecture with that. Prabhupada said, one who has no such realization, Prabhupada is making that a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be detached from sense gratification. Meaning, his very life, his whole existence is meant for the pleasure of Krishna. He's becoming Krishna conscious, he's helping others to become Krishna conscious, he's following the process laid down by the acharyas, he's following everything, and in this way, he's automatically controlling his mind with no external effort. He doesn't have to change, he doesn't have to move from the city to the forest. It doesn't matter whether he's a renunciate, whether he's like a renounced person, or whether he's just a householder, or whether he's just a simple person, an uneducated person, an illiterate person even. It doesn't matter. Everybody can become Krishna conscious. It doesn't matter whether you're poor, you're rich, whether you're male or female. Everybody can achieve realization. We don't have to change. We don't have to change our situation. But what we need to do is we need to change our lifestyle. What does that lifestyle mean? That lifestyle basically means the outlook on our life. It doesn't mean, so yes, if we're eating meat, then we give up meat. There's a few changes that happens. There's a few changes. But these changes are very simple compared to, for instance, Prabhupada is making it. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. And I know a person, I know, some people, they go on a retreat. What do? They don't talk for 8 days straight. You don't talk with anybody. You're not supposed to talk to anybody. Because you're trying to empty the mind. Do you understand how difficult this is? If you should not talk. Again, just because you don't talk doesn't mean that the mind is not like saying 10,000 things every second to you. It doesn't mean, but they're trying. They're mechanically trying. But this mechanical process is very difficult. It is very difficult. We don't have to do this mechanical process. We have to understand that we actively meditate every single minute of our life. But we need to divert that meditation onto Krishna. When we divert that meditation onto Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, we gain Krishna's mercy to be able to conquer the mind. Automatically, how can Krishna conquer the mind? Because he created it. He created it. He created everything in this world. Everything will be everything, because the whole purpose of this creation is for us to actually become self-realized. It is for us to become Krishna conscious. The moment we take to this process, everything falls in place. Everything will fall in place. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. It's a wonderful process, very blissful. And it's very simple. And you get to do this not just by yourself. You don't have to struggle by yourself. It happens in the community of devotees. It happens in the community of devotees where devotees help each other. There is loving relationship. There is genuine reciprocation of love. And it all becomes very blissful and easy to follow. So this is Krishna consciousness. So I'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. We have mic, so yes.
Hare Krishna. I wrote down my question, sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up. Do you need a certain amount or type of suffering to get to the point where you look to the Lord or Krishna?
Good question. You don't need it. For some people, that can be an impetus. But if suffering was the greatest teacher of self-realization, then a lot of self-realized people would exist in this world. Suffering is not needed. And that's a good thing. For instance, if we want to become self-realized, we don't have to suffer to become self-realized. This is a wonderful thing. It's good news. Because we just need, see, actually, there's different kinds of people. So there's different classes of people with different intelligence. The person with first class intelligence, he hears about suffering. He hears about suffering and he avoids it. Okay, he hears, oh, this is going to give me misery. The senses are attracted to the sense objects, but the sense objects are temporary. If I indulge my senses in the sense objects and I waste my time like this, then I am going to suffer. Make sense? Okay, I will not do it. This is first class intelligence. Or at least he accepts. It may take some time to put it into practice. Second class intelligence is by observing, he realizes that there is suffering. Oh, everybody is saying that the aim of life is that I've got to make a lot of money. I got to get myself a partner. I have to get myself kids. I have to get myself a house. I need to become, I need to have this, I need to go to university and get this and get that or whatever. But then I see so many people who got that. Are they all happy? Are they all happy? No. So then by observing, he realizes, okay, I'm avoiding this. Third class intelligence. He suffers. Then he understands. But unfortunately, there is a fourth class intelligence. What is that? After suffering also, they don't understand. For such people, it's tough. Because what can you do? So therefore, there's how we deal with those people is another thing, but that's hopefully an answer to your question. Anything? Yes, Mataji.
I was thinking earlier, how a point that was said earlier, do you believe that there's a practical explanation or any kind of explanation as to why people are more drawn to the structureless way? Like, I want to believe in God, but I want to do it my own way. I don't want that structure and that discipline. Do you think that there's a reason why?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. The reason is simple. You don't want to surrender. This surrender is a very difficult thing to do. Why? Because it's an attack on the ego. You see, all these lifetimes, we are thinking, I got things under control. I am going to figure a way out. I'm going to make this work. Well, I'll include my friends too. And we'll figure it out. Or our political party will figure it out. Or our nations figured it out. We, the Americans, figured it out. No? So, but the truth is, we actually didn't figure out anything. We are suffering. We are suffering. We are not solving the problems of this world. It takes a lot to admit that. And even if I admit it, well, yeah, that was all my stupid forefathers who didn't have anything. We're more advanced right now. We're going to figure it out right now. People, they over the course of years, people have come up with so many political systems as solutions for this world. Right? People threw out monarchy. Then they replaced it with, democracy. Some replaced it with communism. Others want socialism. And then there's so many now. Actually, this form of representative democracy doesn't work. We're going to do direct democracy. Heard of that? But there's no end to this. Now, it doesn't mean that we're against governance. But the point that we're trying to make is that we cannot achieve success without understanding who is actually in control of everything. Then we have to mold our philosophy according to the purpose with which the Supreme Personality of Godhead has created this universe. Why has Krishna created this universe? That is what requires surrender. And therefore there becomes a process. Immediately there's a process. Because there's a purpose, right? So if you have to drive a car, there's a process in how you drive the car. I can't drive the car by keeping my head where the pedal is. And keeping my legs on the steering wheel. I might like to do such a thing, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Why? It's a process. So now, I'm okay to accept a process if it serves my interests. Otherwise, I don't want to accept. So then I don't feel like I'm surrendering. But if we actually realize that our real self-interest is in understanding the interest of He who we belong to, that we're not separate. We and God are not two completely separate, unrelated people. We are related to Him. We are His parts and parcels. We are His devotees. His interest is where our interest lies. By aligning our interest with His interest, we become happy because we are His parts and parcels. Therefore, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we surrender to that. That takes a lot because then you have to follow a process. And you have to listen. Oh, the spiritual master is saying, well, you have to live in this way. You have to do these kind of things. Well, no. There's this stubbornness that we have. And the stubbornness is such a big obstacle. But because of the stubbornness, we suffer. But why do we want to why do we want to have our backs broken by the laws of material nature that we are trying to work against? Why are we trying to go against the stream? We don't need to. All we need to do is take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Therefore, real meditation is meditation on Krishna. Real meditation is meditation on the Hare Krishna mantra. Any other form of stillness, connectivity, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. But when we take shelter of Krishna, I say, Krishna, I am baffled by my efforts. Now I surrender unto you. Now I take the association and guidance of your pure devotee. Please help me. All our problems are solved. And it's not some magical thing. It's not the magical thing like, oh yeah, there's this God who's like a slave owner, and the moment the slave owner subjugates himself to the slave owner, then the slave owner, out of his mercy, solves all his problems, otherwise he's giving him a hard time. No, it's not like that. We are giving ourselves a hard time. So Krishna is very merciful. And even if, and here's the beauty, right? Even if we are not able to fully surrender at this moment, we're not ready to do that yet. Right? That's where the next problem comes. Well, I understand I need to surrender, but I just can't do it right now. But there is a way in which we can make ourselves available, that at least let me work towards this. Let me do what I can. And the main thing is not be envious of that principle. On principle, I agree I need to surrender. Now, by the guidance of devotees and by the guidance of the spiritual master, we can learn what steps we can take to move in that direction. What can I digest right now? And whatever we do, Krishna says, Neha Vikrama Naswasti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little progress on this path saves one from the greatest danger. There is no loss or diminution. Even a little progress. Somehow or the other, let us connect ourselves with Krishna. Any other questions? Any other comments? Oh, you're actually raising your hand.
My question is that how come you're you and not somebody else? And how come you can think something and somebody else doesn't think the same thing, or you can't think what they're
So how can we as human beings think something and somebody else doesn't think the same thing, and why can we not think what the other person is thinking?
And how come you're you and not somebody else?
How come I'm human and not somebody else?
How come you're you? You're you.
How come you're you?
How come I am me but not somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay, well actually quite nice question. So, you see, why are we not? Because we're all individuals. We're all individuals. People say, we're all one. No, we're not all one. We're actually different individuals. That's why we think differently. That's why I, me, and you're you. That although we have the same human body, and we are all spirit souls intrinsically, even the cat is a spirit soul. Even the dog is a spirit soul. But they're different individuals. And we cannot think what the other person is thinking. Well, for two reasons. One is because we're different to them. Second is because we are not all knowing. We're not God. God sits in it. Krishna is in everybody's heart. And He knows what everybody else is thinking. I don't know what you're thinking. And you may not know what I'm thinking. But Krishna knows what you're thinking and what I'm thinking. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu, you spoke about people taking sort of like vows of silence.
People taking what?
Vows of silence.
Silence, that you said they're not going to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Vows of being speechless.
Yes.
Correct.
But if I'm not
Silence,
mistaken,
yes,
in
sir.
Bhagavad Gita it says that a vow of silence is actually a vow not to speak unnecessary things.
Correct.
So could you speak about that?
Yeah, I mean, devotees automatically follow the vow of silence because we don't speak nonsense. You know, you don't. In my opinion, who cares about what your opinion is? I can have so many opinions, and so many people have so many opinions. But the thing is, what is the opinion of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita? Now that sounds like, oh, this is very condescending. You're like, this is exactly what we don't like about religion. But see, we have to get off this mental platform. I like, I dislike, I feel, I don't feel. No, we have to start using intelligence. Does what Krishna says make sense? Does it make more sense than what you're saying? We can start discussing. This is the whole point of this the Bhagavad Gita, is we can discuss these things. And you will find, Prabhupada says, if you read Bhagavad Gita in an unbiased way, you will understand that there is no knowledge that is comparable to what is found in Bhagavad Gita in any text in the world. That is the standard of Bhagavad Gita. It is not that it contradicts the other texts in the world. No, it doesn't. But what it does is you will find knowledge that you will find in other scriptures, And you will find what you will not find anywhere else in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says in the introduction, this is the specific standard of the Bhagavad Gita. So devotees automatically follow the vow of silence by not speaking nonsense. They only speak what, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And in this way, their tongues are automatically engaged in his service. Okay, all right. It's 1:52, so I'll stop here. Now, you all have received beads. So